So Steve Martin seems to be retiring. At least from one thing, he seems to be retiring. And should we be necessarily surprised? So let's get it out of the way right off the bat. No disrespect whatsoever to Steve Martin. I discovered Steve Martin as he was most certainly an actor that was pretty much before my time. But I discovered Steve Martin because I found a video with him at my grandmother's. It was Father of the Bride, the first movie. And I remember I watched it and I was pretty little. And I was out in the country, so the only thing I had were the videos that were on hand, the couple videos in the VHS player that was in the back room. And so I had about 7 different movies, and one of them was Father of the Bride, and it was a comedy. And I watched it, and I remember being like, this is legit funny. Is nothing I would have picked out myself. I mean, Father of the Bride, especially at the age that I was, there's no way I was ever going to really watch that movie. Not till I was much older and started liking cinema in a very different way. But this movie, circumstances led me to watch it, so I did. And then I enjoyed it quite a bit. Enough, in fact, to ask my grandmother, who is this guy? She's, oh, well, that's Steve Martin. He's a funny comedian. And I'm like, I haven't seen him do any movies besides this one. And she goes, well, he does movies. He does a lot of movies, but none that you would probably watch. And so, before I knew it, we were going out to the video store that was down around there. And, you had to really drive into town to get to this video store. But we did it, okay? And I picked up a couple of Steve Martin things. I remember I watched, it was The Three Amigos, if I remember right. And I watched Jerk, little things like that here and there. And just kind of got a bit of an understanding for this actor. And then later on in my life, he pretty much moved on to complete DVDs, straight to DVD movies. As far as I could tell, they're mostly all straight to DVD movies. I haven't seen him really come out in the theaters in a very long time, or maybe I haven't been paying attention. But from what I see, I seem to always see him coming out with straight to DVD movies, Cheaper by the Dozen, things of that nature. I think that was, maybe I'm mistaken. I think that's what that was. Regardless, after seeing a couple of his films here and there, I started liking him, and I started kind of actively seeking him out when I would notice if I was at Walmart or something like that, and I would see one of his little movies, that his movies that were, straight to DVD. I'd be like, hey, that's probably a pretty good movie. It's probably not anything that we're going to flip out and, oh my God, it's one of my all-time favorite movies, but it's probably going to be pretty good. So I'd get it. And I keep wanting to say Cheaper by the Dozen was one of the last major ones that I truly enjoyed. That might be it. It has the same guy in it that played in Smallville, the guy that played Clark Kent. I can't remember his name right now. But you get the idea. Well, recently, he's been doing a show. And that show is Only Murders in the Building. And it just so happens that there was something released, a statement that says longtime actor Steve Martin told The Hollywood Reporter he plans to scale back on acting after the end of the hit Hulu show Only Murders in the Building. Though he came short of saying he would retire when this television show was done. I'm not going to seek others, he said. He says, I'm not going to seek other movies. Now, this is where I wonder. Because look, when I first saw this, I thought that he was probably going to leave television, right? Because when you film a series, it's a lot of work. It's crazy how much work goes into a movie, but I think that actors on TV, because it's always kind of been like this, where people kind of see the actors that go to movies are not the actors that are on television. I mean, that's kind of not true anymore. But some people still view it as a downgrade in your career to not do movies, to go do series. But I would argue that series is much more work. A series is continuous, and you have to worry about the constant episodes and always being there and always filming, and doesn't matter rain, shine, sick, healthy, doesn't matter, you got to do it. And you got to put out episodes, you got to put them out rapid fire, and as you do it, there's always the chance that something could come up, or you could lose this, or you could have some sort of catastrophe, and you got to write around people's, like, it's crazy that some of these people that work on series will work like 14 hours a day, every day, nearly 6 days a week for like the entirety of the season, and then be so burnt out and not even necessarily get to go back to their families, because a movie opportunity will present itself, and as soon as the season ends, they'll immediately leave that season and go in and do a movie, which is actually less work for them because of the kind of work they're used to. They'll do the movie and then go right back to the series, and they just all year round, these people are beasts. And let's be honest, Steve Martin is an older guy now. I mean, he was an older guy when I knew him. But now we're reaching that point where a lot of these actors, these veteran actors, veteran comedians and whatnot, they're going to start dropping off. They're going to drop off, not necessarily all through dying, okay? But it's time for some of these people to retire. And see, here's the thing. It says, though he came short of saying he would retire, when this television show is done, I'm not going to seek others. He's not looking for any more work in television or series. He said, I'm not going to seek other movies. Now, that could just be because of, how sometimes people talk and they kind of get the talking, and then before they realize that they've said something, they didn't necessarily mean it to translate that way. It sounded different in their head, and then by the time they said it, it sounded something else. So maybe what he meant to say was he would seek movies before he would seek out series. Or maybe this was very much a statement saying, I think I'm done. I think I'm tired. I think I'll do projects that I really care to do. Projects that maybe I write myself or something. But the idea that he says, I'm not going to seek other movies. I mean, and I'm not going to seek other series. Is that it? Is he done? Are we looking at the end for this actor? Is he ready to move on? And maybe he is. And you know what? Like I said, I don't think that that's a bad thing. Look, guys, we're coming up on it. We're coming up on the time. If you guys are my age, I'm 38. Some of the actors that we grew up with when we were like 8, 10, 12. And now we're looking at the same actors 25 years later in some cases, in some of our cases nearly 30 years later. And it's not going to be surprising that we enter this moment where a lot of the new actors start taking the places of the actors we grew up with. A lot of these guys are going to retire. They're going to move on. And you know what? Let me just say something. Personally, I think it is better for an actor to retire with their dignity than... I would rather see actors retire with their dignity and have some money and enjoy their life and go to award shows and things like that, and maybe even do a little event here and there if they choose to do so. But you know what? Acting is a lot of work. And after a while, your mind is not as sharp. It's tougher to memorize the lines. And sometimes you kind of lose your passion and you're just tired. In general, you don't always maintain your health. And it also sucks to see some actors that slowly fall apart on the screen and desperately kind of cater to try to get certain things that they used to have and things like that. I'm happy to see Steve go out of his own decision to decide that he's kind of done what he wants to do. and he's ready to move on. And maybe I viewed this incorrectly. Maybe some people have more information than I do, but when I saw this little quick article, that's what I got from it. And personally, while I've seen a lot of people saying things like, I'm going to miss Steve Martin, and this is so sad, and it really makes the ending, or it really makes the Only Murders in the Building bittersweet, because no matter how good it is, it's the end of Steve Martin, and that's sad. And you know what? It's not sad, necessarily. This might be a chance to dig back through his legacy, to really see what he did, to enjoy movies that you missed out on, and to say, wow, man. Because I think we get stuck in this nostalgic idea that everything is supposed to be all the same all the time, and that all these things are supposed to cater to us. And, you know, actors are people, just like anybody else. And just like I would love the opportunity, once I'm old enough, to retire from my job, because you better believe I don't want to work my whole life. Who does? I guess some people do, to be fair, but I don't. And I look at it, and acting is a job. It might be a fun job. It might be an amazing job. It might be a job that literally gives you the world at your fingertips in some cases, and allows you to do, say, and experience things that other people would never even imagine. But in the end, it's a job, and these actors deserve the right to retire and not necessarily be like missed in that way. When I leave my job, I'm hoping that people congratulate me, and that they remember what I did and who I was and how we had fun working together. You know, it was work, but hey, we worked together for like 20 years. We were always friendly, always cool, always this, always that. And then at the end of it, when I'm on my way out, I hope that me and whomever else can just kind of like eat some cake or something and be like, hey man, I'm on my way out, and yada yada, and you like, just enjoy it and be like, this is it. Because it's funny that we constantly take these moments that an actor decides to step down, and we make it like a sad moment. I don't see it. You know what? Steve Martin was and is a straight up comedic legend. And if he's on his way out, I give the thumbs up and I say, hey man, you were awesome. And that's all I've got to say about it. And you know what? Check out some of his work. See how awesome you might have thought he was. It's good to see these people get to retire, instead of some of these people that get stuck, like, you know, their financial decisions didn't pay off quite the right way, and they're like roaming circuits and like doing movies they don't want to do at the end of their life just to cut whatever cash they can cut. That's sad. I hope he retires, and I hope everything is awesome, and I hope he goes on to do everything he ever wanted to do. You know, you get the idea. In terms of just, yeah. I don't see this as a sad thing. I'm seeing all over the place where people are posting about how sad they are. I think this is awesome. Too many times we watch actors die while they're still acting. That's a job. If you want to be Christopher Lee and you want to work and work and work and work until your dying day, and that's what you want, then that's great. And if you're capable of doing it, that's wonderful. You got what you wanted. But some people want to retire. And we should be damn happy that they actually got the chance to do so, because I would rather read that Steve Martin retired rather than the show is canceled because Steve Martin died. Not the headline I want to see. This, awesome headline. Alternative, not so great. I think this is a celebratory moment. I don't think this is a sad thing. But that's just me. And boy, if you ever needed proof that this channel was random, I literally just came across Steve Martin retires and thought, well, maybe I should say something. I liked Steve Martin. Anyways, later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.